Okay, so we have how Hoyo, Hololive, and Vocaloid topped their competition. Interesting.
Trend online. A niche will appear, and even if they're not the first adapter, though sometimes they are, one group will stand out above the rest and become titans amongst their peers, and nearly inescapable. Sometimes their competitors will have just as high as quality as they do. There's endless fantasy RPGs out there with compelling stories, so what makes Hoyoverse's content so front and center? New VTuber agencies open every other week, so why is HOLOLIVE the one that's taken main stage? With many competitors on the market, why does Sega's Vocaloid sound software keep musicians and fans coming back and attached? 3 things set these examples apart from their competitors. I present to you the meat hook. Marketing, expansion, accessibility, and transformability. A pattern I've recognized, and the hook that keeps us coming back for more. First, marketing. What are they offering consumers and how they offer it? Let's break down each of these examples for each category and round it off with what they're doing, tapping into the same itch their customers scratch. Hoyo has slowly upped the ante with their marketing for their games, most noticeably Genshin, from its humble origins with character teasers being some attack animations and panning shots of their 3D models to whole elaborate animated mini features and beautifully crafted animations. Their promotional material has gotten very high quality and precise, but that only scratches the surface. They do out-of-game events like the Genshin Concert Orchestra, collaborations with other video games, their cast of VAs being incredibly personable and interactable on social media, food collaborations, and more.
What? I want to go to Genshin KFC.
This serves not just to sate their hungry fan base who wants more of what they like, but also potentially entice and draw in curious wandering passers-by who may have not heard.
Yeah, it's so very much so it's like expansion. It's like, I guess, like going to the, like stepping up to the next level, just like expand even further and further and further. And it's like upping the
Good
ante.
marketing.
Yeah, in the sense of, I mean, as you grow, it's like, I guess, in how it's like investing, like reinvesting. If you grow, you're growing as a company. You're making money. You invest, you market, you to grow the company even more. It's like just like a foundation. You're building these blocks up. And just building up.
Yeah, marketing
Tour.
and expansion
Yeah.
are 2 different things. No,
Okay.
because like you can expand, like for example, VTuber companies expanding by hiring more people. But if you're not marketing those people,
Right.
then there's no point.
Right. Yeah.
Their properties before. For marketing, Covercore makes use of their own signed talents to promote their merchandise, and from what I've seen, they've made good on not sending their fans cheap garbage, so the merchandise is worthwhile. 3D concerts to promote their talent's music, endless wearable merch, and as well, they draw on the influence of accredited and famous artists to create their assets, leveraging those eyes and ears. They collaborate with known brands for things ranging from video games to cafes.
Wait, I didn't know there was Among Us X Whole Life merch.
They collaborate
What?
with
Bro, I
yeah.
didn't know that there was some actual merch of that.
known brands for things ranging from video games to cafes to clothing. Concerts,
collabed
mobile
with a
games,
lot that many
orchestras,
people don't
anime
know.
crossovers, cafes, live mascots, you name it, in the
Probably.
last 10 years, and they've done it. It's a bit further down the timeline for established internet brands, but the fans market the character-based products and the music made harder than the company at this point. As such, they benefit from the intense word of mouth and customer satisfaction. It cannot be understated, though, that they did have Sega money to fund ventures, regardless of how experimental.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like Sega plays a way bigger company, plays the money to invest in the marketing already.
were. So while their success seems inevitable, also keep that in mind. What these 3 share in common is that these companies breach offline into reality, far past a few simple web banners and video mid-roll ads. This serves not just to sate their wandering, hungry fan base who wants more of what they like, but also to entice and draw in curious passers-by who may not have heard. For online-based businesses, I would argue there's nothing more powerful than offline markets and collaboration for the longevity and growth of your IP. This is a strategy shown to be done in a striking and hardcore fashion.
I just kind of feel like I get what they're, I obviously I get and I understand all this, but it feels like to be able to expand into the offline market like that, you would have to be already at a certain size of a company to be given those opportunities. So like, okay, well, what do you do as like a smaller company, like a beginning company, in order to market yourselves or go through marketing as like a small company, or like if you don't have the money or you don't have the opportunities to like collaborate with Among Us and like KFC in order to build up to the point where you are doing those sort of off collabs like that, because obviously Hololive didn't start like that. They were doing other like sorts of marketability, and over time they grew big enough where they were doing those offline collaborations. So it's just sort of in that sense of like, okay, what do you do when you're just starting off? You kind of
It's yeah, like you said, it's not like Hololive just spawned in collabing with food chains or Among Us or whatever else. They obviously had to start from zero as well. So obviously, it's really just creating different collabs just from small, whether it's very small collabs with like other
like,
streamers,
or like even like other
and
small
then going from
companies.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like making
and just doing all of
connections.
that. Yeah, building up
Yeah.
connections, and then you could make collaborations that way, getting through those connections,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
slowly build up from there.
Right, yeah, because it's sort of like how like industry sort of work is like, you open yourself up to like collaborating with people, and then it's like, oh, look, I'm friends with this person who's friends with that person who can get me into something, because it's essentially how like sometimes like actors have said, like in the entertainment industry, like, oh yeah, like, I made a friend and my friend knew this person who was a director of a movie, and so because I was friends with someone who knew this guy, I got the audition for the movie and I got into the movie. It's like, it's so like it's very connection based, that like all these industries, like it's very much so just like building up connections and making connections and building up your credibility, I guess, in the space.
Yup.
This ties into the previous point, but from a different angle. All three groups started with one core solid product and plan. From there, as their consumer base grew, as did the scope of their operations, they didn't stagnate and keep things small, but added more for their people to enjoy. It sounds simple, but often when done wrong, expansion can often muddy the waters of a company and dilute the base product, leaving everyone scratching their heads as to why their 100-year anniversary movie felt AI generated and they ruined Star Wars. HoloVerse expanded its base games to add new features, storylines, time-limited events, and side games, but outside of its product expansion itself, it's been able to push into those unique and fun avenues of things like anime, which was announced and teased for Genshin, concerts, and more games. Their expansion added rich complexity to their base product, but has also let them experiment with new things. Cover started as a small team with a dream of making a virtual idol agency. With that realized in an ever-growing roster, they expanded to hone in on the streaming aspect and permanent content, like music albums, animated videos, live concerts, and the like. Their expansion furthered the base stream of creating idols. Vocaloid has expanded so beyond the scope of what one would have predicted, its humble origins just being vocal technological software being sold as a vocal synth instrument to a niche audience of musicians. Once people fell in love with the malleability of the characters given to those voices, it's gone to the highest reaches of pop music, and to selling pizzas, to the yearly Snow Miku tradition. I know Vocaloid is more than just Miku, but
This is me acknowledging the Project Diva games because I've forgotten the script. They are very important as an expansion on Vocaloid.
it's a simple example for breaking things down, so bear with me. These last 2 points, though, I would argue, are what makes these three companies stand out and unique from the rest of their competition.
Wow, that was fucking loud. Jesus.
Let's rattle these off in a shot. Hoyo, Sega, and Cover are all highly accessible in all forms to their consumer base, be it multi-platform nature of Hoyo's IP, making even non-gamers and casuals able to play it with the ease on their smartphones. Depending on file size, the relative low cost of entry and learning curve for the Vocaloid software, and freeware animation software going hand in hand with it, making people able to create their own music and music videos.
Wow.
The ability to tune in on the hour to see your favorite streamer live doing what they've planned for the day. These groups have perfect placement for being highly consumable and barrier to entry being low stakes. Unlike IPs like Marvel, for example, whose expansion attempts not only didn't add anything of value, arguably, to their existing product, but also made it a mess and intimidating for new people to approach. This is a unique phenomena to the online world that these giants greatly benefit from, and arguably is the main reason they are head and shoulders over their competitors. Their transformability. Now, what does that mean? It means the audience has the ability to interact with the product in multiple ways, often not expected by the creators. These groups have insanely high levels of transformability as they facilitate creation of fan work, lets community create designs, sometimes they become official, includes the work in events, and straight up gives them official material to work with in the form of things like 3D models. I know MMD is a bit more nuanced, but the result is the same, so again, bear with me. With the ability for any fan to download their favorite VTuber's 3D model and make a funny meme, or to use their favorite Genshin character in a shipping-based music video, the IP evolves past its initial purpose and becomes highly personalized in artistic ways to people and can grow their own cult followings. That's why the costume contest of Snow Miku every year is a huge deal.
So it builds up more like a personalized community. It makes you feel more like connected with like the company and the product, essentially, in that sense, like encouraging sort of like fan interaction. It gives you like it's personable. Like gives you a more of a personal aspect and an attachment. And so like sort of like how cover feels like it doesn't like it feels different to just like a soulless corporation. It has an identity and it has a personality, so that makes people feel a lot more connected to them, and it builds, you know, like say a community. It's personable. That's essentially how you build the connection with the audience and with the viewer, and that just essentially helps the company to grow even further. That makes sense to me. That does make sense of how transformability and how you do it in a way that can also be like can help sort of like it makes sense that like, you know, people to be attached to something and have like be like giving something like a cult like following, having a personalized, like being more personalized and having people sort of have a more personal connection, that makes people way more likely to be dedicated to your company and dedicated to your image, because, you know, like people get attached to things. People grow, they want to like have a personalized connection with something, and doing that makes people like horror fans are very dedicated. They are very like into it, and I think it is based off of that sort of format of making it feel personable and making it feel like community based, very much so.
Like two great examples I can think of off the top of my head that are not included in this video, like the Holo Indie project, where Cover Corp is telling like, you know, all these HOLOLIVE fan games, like being able to monetize them and give them material to work with, and that way, doing that, they can expand their own IP and let people know, just like with HoloCure, right? Like a lot of people outside of the VTuber sphere got to know HOLOLIVE from that, and them like being very interactive with the audience. Like I saw very recently on Twitter that there is an Idol Showdown tournament in which Cover Corp is going to be giving prizes.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, because I think like other companies like, you know, Nintendo, they're like, nah, like fuck off. You know, it's like very much like they're smart with it. Like they understand the concepts of like community. That community is extremely important for overall growth. You know, it's like in the sense of like even, you know, in a hypothetical sense of like content creation. You know, if you have like a a community and you have fan interaction, that makes the viewer feel seen and more inclined to want to watch you because they build a personal relationship with you as a creator, and that makes somebody more inclined to want to stay and to want to watch you instead of just like, you know, moving on and just not watching you anymore. It's like that sort of concept of like why Yago and Covercore were so smart, because they understand that sense of community. They understand that aspect of, like, you know, the community is an aspect of growing the company within itself. Like, your community making things and making fan projects and doing all of these things, you essentially, I guess, if you wanted to, you want to be scummy, you could copyright them and take all their money. But in the long run, the growth that you get from those fan projects overall is more beneficial. It's
Yep.
which I think some companies just don't realize.
Deal. Why people can put their own Vocaloid hologram concerts on, make Zhongli hit the gritty. Cover and Hoyo have pages dedicated to letting you download these 3D models. With memes, creative projects, and the like, things depicted gain new lives, and is arguably the most effective in drawing new online consumers, more than any normal advertisement, because it's real. It's real, raw feedback from people who enjoy the product. They enjoy it enough that they play with it and show it off in unique, fun ways. That's what makes vocal synths so appealing. You could take a character and effectively redesign it head to toe, and people still enjoy it as your version of the character. Sometimes it gains enough popularity that it becomes official, like the Servant of Evil song designs. So, what's the takeaway? These three grow more and more in value and recognizability each year because they've become masters of what it means to be online. They see the value in their audience instead of belittling them or spoon-feeding them.
Essentially, just what Niji Sanji is not doing.
They give them the content and then give them elements to play with. The interaction with their community.
I think something that they also didn't. I think something that also is a thing to add. I think also the aspects of like the fact that the talents come up with their own merch themselves. I think even more adds that personalized element to things as well. I think it's something that like forgetting to add about like the products is that, like, you know, in like the 3D streams, in the 3D concerts, the fact that they come up and they make their own merch themselves gives this sort of like, yeah, personalized, individualistic element to it. It doesn't feel as corporate and as soulless, just have, you know, random merch that the company came up with themselves, instead of having like merch that actually genuinely comes from the talent, where they put their time and their effort into crafting something personable for their fans. Like, it feels a lot more personal, and it makes fans a lot more inclined to want to purchase them, to feel even more of a personalized collection with their favorite talent. And I think essentially
you could just, even from the outside, just feel that genuine care was put into the projects and everything put out by the company, instead of, like you said, being soulless. And
yeah, and also it gives it more of like a uniqueness. Like, it literally does, because it's like, if you were just like the company just like standard merch, like actually giving the talents more freedom, like, you know, it's like in the good graces of your talents. Like, it makes your talents, you know, I mean, essentially giving them more freedom, I think, is always going to make them like feel better. It's going to be also, they're going to be happy with that, but at the same time, the community is going to be happy with that as well, knowing that their talents are free to do what they want artistically with the merch, and having that more personalized connection, and knowing their talents came up with the things themselves makes you more inclined to want to buy it. And it's like, it's overall just like a really positive thing in that aspect. Like you can be in the more right aspect of things and also do it in a way which is actually beneficial for you in a corporate mindset as well, which I feel like Niji just doesn't do. I think Niji just is like blinded by the concept of being money hungry to the point where they just don't have that sort of good community mindset that I think is why Cover is so highly regarded and why they're so successful, because they have the good graces of the VTuber community because of the way they conduct themselves and they conduct their business. And even if Niji Sanji recovers financially again, it's like, what grows your company? When you're a VTuber company, it's your viewers which grows your company. It's not the money. Like, you can have all the money in the world, if no one watches you, then your company is fucked. Like, you need your fan base and you need the viewers. So it's like,
Yep.
yeah, like, essentially you need to be in the good graces, and you need to be in the good graces of the community and of the fan base to grow, essentially. Like, you essentially, in a literal sense, if everybody stopped watching you, your company is fucked. If everybody stops watching all the Niji talents, even if they have $2 billion, they are fucked. Like, in a literal sense, like, your company can't continue to grow if no one watches you anymore.
Is absurdly high, and feedback is generally taken into account for the most part. Not to hate on Disney, which I will do more than joyfully, these reasons and more are the reasons they don't appeal to the younger audiences anymore like they used to. They don't take criticism, they disrespect their audiences, try to sue them out of existence sometimes for derivative fan work, instead of embracing and fostering it. An online death sentence. Their marketing strategies are unevolved from the early 2000s and are fast swept away in the new age of entertainment, and it's harder than ever to access their content without paying extra depending on what you want. What these companies have, and that their competition needs if they ever want to keep pace, let alone catch up, is a willingness to engage with the people who pay their salaries, the audience.
Yeah, which essentially, in a single sentence, is what Niji is completely fucked up with. Like, in an essential sense, because Niji picked money over their audience. Like, essentially, Niji picks money over the fan base and their audience, which is how you fuck up your company, essentially. But that was a good video though. Like, the company aspect, things like that. Yeah, it gave me a better, like, sort of understanding of things. It was a good video. And yeah, essentially they just have fucking terrible PR. Like, essentially, like, in a hypothetical sense, Niji genuinely could just not give a fuck and only care about money and just, like, PR their, like, being in the good graces of their audience, but they're so fucking bad that they can't even do that. Like, it's just crazy.
Thing is, if they, like, for example, like with the Ian branch currently on fire, and let's just say they dissolve that and absorb it into the main branch, just like they did with ID and KR,
Yeah,
and whatnot. Them only caring about money and disregarding what their audience thinks and talents, whatever. They might be successful in the very short run, but long term they will absolutely hit a ceiling, because their marketing is not all good, not all that great. Their expansion has been shown to be absolutely terrible. ID and KR being the example in India as well.
Right, yeah.
Their transformability is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, and I don't know if they actually have a willingness to want to expand more, because I think the inherent issue that I think Niji has is that what I think the inherent difference is with Yago and, like, Tazumi, or just, like, Niji and HOLOLIVE's ideology, or Cover and any Cover's ideologies, is that Niji wants a early return on investment, and Cover Corp is willing to wait on their return in investment, meaning that Cover Corp is willing to invest into an expansion and wait long term for something to develop and grow over time. In comparison, I think Niji wants more of an early, like, turn in investment, so they're more willing, if something's not making them money, they're gonna cut it off really quickly. When, like, essentially you can see HOLOLIVE ID is super successful, which shows that Niji Sanji ID could have been successful 100% because the audience is there. If Niji would have pushed them and invested into them like HOLOLIVE did for Whole ID, I'm sure that somebody like Mika could have been way more successful than she was. Like, they really could have made ID successful by investing into them, but they didn't. They left them to dry. And
Absolutely.
and I think that like now it feels like to a certain extent that it feels like they're even like afraid to expand. Like, I don't know if they're actually going to make any other form of expansion, because it seems like they are so like receptive to what happened to like XID and XKR, and the way how you continue to grow the brand and the company is to make expansions. But I don't know if they actually will make expansions, or if they do try to make expansions, where exactly would they go? Like, what area are they going to try and go to or do in terms of expansion? Like, I don't really know.
Only time will tell for now.
100%. And I think like even like it shows like HOLOLIVE. I think that Holostars can only get bigger, and that they're going to grow, and that return in investment is coming. Like, I see Holostars English growing even bigger. Like, I don't see them slowing down. Like, I see them over time like just growing that male VTubing market, and it's gonna get bigger. And it's just like that willingness to, even if Holostars is probably making them significantly less money in the HOLOLIVE, the fact that they stuck with them and still invested into them, shows their dedication into their projects, which I think shows more, like, it's just better than Niji Sanji, because Niji Sanji, I feel like they don't care. They only care about the money. And that can very much so, especially when VTubing is so personal, is so personalized, that can really hurt your credibility, which it has. It's ruined their credibility. Yeah, so that's so that's this video. I think it was a pretty decent video. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, enjoy the channel if you haven't, and please if you have not, go and check out our K-Rock Flow in the description down below. You can give them a subscribe if you would like to. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next one. Bye bye.